Ready? All right. Good evening and welcome to the Planning Commission of the City of Marina Valley. I now call this meeting to order, January 11th. Let's go with 2024 at 6:02 p.m. It says 2023 here. I'm going to go with 2024. May we have a roll call?
Commissioner Erlin Gonzalez,
Here.
Commissioner Darrell Terrell,
Here.
Commissioner Ray Baker,
Here.
Commissioner David Zeitz,
Here.
Commissioner Joanne Steffen,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Omar Kobian,
Here.
Chairperson Alvin Dejanay.
Here. All right, Commissioner Terrell will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. We're now going to move to the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion and a second for the approval of the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda as submitted.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and we have an electronic vote. All right, the motion does carry. Okay, in the public comments procedure of our meeting this meeting, before we hear public comments this evening, I ask and encourage everyone participating to keep their comments respectful toward others, especially toward individuals speaking. I embrace and support the First Amendment right to free speech, including everyone's right to speak at this meeting and share his or her views about issues concerning our city. But we can accomplish that more as a city and as private citizens by being civil and respectful toward one another in this meeting. During the public comment period for each item, as well as during the public comments periods for the items not on the agenda, each member of the public who has signed up to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. Any person wishing to address the commission on any matter, either under the public comment section of the agenda or scheduled items or public hearings, must fill out a request to speak form available at the door. The completed form must be submitted to the secretary prior to the agenda item being called by the chairperson. In speaking to the commission, members of the public may be limited to 3 minutes per person, except for the applicant for entitlements. The commission may establish an overall time limit for comments on a particular agenda item. Members of the public must direct their questions to the chairperson of the commission and not to other members of the commission, the applicant, the staff, or audience. With that being said, the next item is public comments on any item not on the agenda. And do we have any speakers?
Yes, we do. We have our first speaker, George Haig.
Good evening. Planning commissioners need to represent the Marina Valley residents. Please do not just do the bidding of the planning department. You need to ask questions and demand more of the developer to better protect residents and the environment. You need to let planning staff know you expect them to require better and stronger conditions of approval before projects come before you. The Sierra Club involved in many litigations with developers. We meet with developers and attorneys, and the majority are willing to try to do right by the impacts they cause to residents and the environment and future employees. But you need to ask, as do the planning department. All Sierra Club settlements are public record. Maybe I should share a recent one with you so you can have an idea of what you and the staff should be demanding prior to approvals. Sierra Club loses money on each litigation, but we do it to better protect the environment and people, especially children and the elderly. Planning staff needs to explain things like conditional use permits and make sure you understand what our own city code reads and ideally case law. Perhaps ask them if you can revise a conditional use permit to see if it is still working, or if not, update them with new conditions of approval as other cities do. As you are aware, the state attorney general has filed a lawsuit against our city's general plan and climate action plan. You should ask a city for the AG's opening brief, then ask the city for their opposing brief, and then finally ask for the Attorney General's reply brief. This is important reading. You should take advantage of it. Please speak in one voice to have emails forwarded to you instead of them being put on your desk at the start of meetings with no time to read unless you arrive early to do so, which you should. Some of these contain links which you are not able to open and read when they're put in front of you in a hard copy. A few months ago, a warehouse was administratively approved by the staff with no public hearing, which is legal, but hopefully you will discourage such in the future. After Sierra Club spent $750 to appeal and write a letter as to the problems with the project, the developer read our letter and asked the city to rescind all approvals, which the city did. Thank all of you who read everything, ask questions, and do not just go automatically with staff recommendations. You are much appreciated. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers?
No, there are no other speakers.
All right, the next item on the agenda is approval of the consent calendar. All the items under the consent calendars are considered to be routine and non-controversial and may be enacted by one motion unless a member of the commission requests that an item be removed for separate action. Items withdrawn from the report or discussion will be heard after the public hearing items. Questions or comments from the public on a consent calendar matter are limited to 3 minutes per individual and must pertain to the subject under consideration. At this time, would any commissioner like to pull an item from the consent calendar for a separate comment? Okay. Do we have any public comments on the consent calendar?
No, we do not.
Okay. Do you have a motion and second for the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All right, the motion does carry. The next item on the agenda is non-public hearing items. At this time, looks as though we don't have any items. So the next item on the agenda is a consideration for public hearing items. We have item number 1. The applicant is requesting approval of a land use entitlement for the development of a commercial center with 8 buildings on approximately 9.3 acres. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair DeJeanette. The presentation this evening will be made by Senior Planner Danielle Harper-Scott. That'll be followed by a brief presentation by our City Attorney as well, Steve Quintanilla.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the Commission. Danielle Harper-Scott, Senior Planner. The project before you this evening is a request to consider a tentative parcel map, master plot plan, and 4 conditional use permits for the development of a commercial shopping center with 8 buildings. The 9.3-acre project site is located on the northwest corner of Nason Street and Fir Avenue and is within the Community Commercial District. The project site is developed with a single-family residence and a wireless telecommunications facility. To facilitate the proposed project, the existing single-family residence will be demolished and the wireless telecommunications facility will remain in place. Surrounding land uses include a vacant commercial land and a State Route 60 off-ramp to the north, single-family residential development to the west and south, and commercial development to the east. The applicant is requesting approval of a tentative parcel map number 37896 to create 5 parcels to allow for the sale or lease of the proposed buildings. All 5 parcels have been designed to comply with the minimum requirements in the municipal code. I would like to make note that the orientation of the site plan has changed from the north being at the top of the page to the north being on the right. A master plot plan and plot plan review is requested for the development of a commercial center with a combination of retail, restaurant, fuel station, car wash, and a drive-through restaurant uses. Access to the proposed project site will be from 3 driveways, 1 on Nason Street and 1 on the eastern border, and 2 on Fir Avenue on the southern border. The proposed project includes a total of 422 parking spaces, which exceeds the minimum parking requirements of the city's municipal code by 58 spaces. The proposed project will incorporate reciprocal access and parking throughout the project site. The proposed project consists of 4 conditional use permits to allow for the following uses: a 3,000 square foot drive-through restaurant, a 4,456 square foot drive-through restaurant pad, a 9-pump fueling station with a convenience store and car wash, and a 2,500 square foot drive-through restaurant. The proposed building elevations have been designed to reflect a Tuscan architectural style with modern influences. The exterior finishes include a combination of stucco, vinyl sidings, and stacked stone finishes. Design elements feature metal awnings, metal trellises with landscaping, decorative corbels and cornices, and corrugated metal roofs. Tower elements and various wall finishes with different wall planes break up the massing and add a focal point to the building. After the publication of the agenda, city staff has received public comments, which have been provided to you at the dais. Additionally, the Land Development Department recommends adding a condition of approval to ensure shared access and utility easements with the adjacent property to the north. The recommended condition of approval reads as follows. Prior to the map approval, the developer shall submit written termination and/or relocation of all access, utilities, and other easements that conflict with the project, including, without limitation, the existing easements benefiting the adjacent properties to the north, APN 487-250-011, as set forth in the grant deed in favor of Pelican Landings, LP, recorded as document number 2014-04622273 in official records, County of Riverside. All written instruments affecting such termination and/or relocation shall be in a recordable form, executed and acknowledged by the easements holders, including Pelican Landing LP or its successors in title as applicable. The proposed project as designed and conditioned is consistent with the goals, policies, and objectives of the city's general plan, as well as the requirements of the Community Commercial District and the Municipal Code. With the recommended conditions of approval, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Resolution 2024-01, adopting the ISM&D and the MMRP, and approve Resolution 2024-02, approving the tentative parcel map, master plot plan, and 4 conditional use permits based on the recitals, evidence, and findings set forth in the resolution. This concludes staff's presentation. I am available for questions, and the applicant is present.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for staff?
Chair, we were going to move to a quick presentation by our city attorney.
Oh, okay, that's right, I did write that down.
A very brief presentation, and this
Went
is
right by that.
more or less of just a reminder of your responsibilities as a planning commissioner and as a decision maker for the city of Moreno Valley. Now, whenever we have a particular project that's presented to the planning commission, whether it's presented to you for recommendation to the city council or whether it's presented to you for a final decision on the project, it's very, very critical that we pay close attention to due process issues, both procedural due process, which means that we have to make sure that the applicant and members of the public are provided with the proper notice of any requisite public hearings like today, and that we follow all the rules and regulations that are currently in place at the time that we are to apply to the project. We also should be concerned about substantive due process, and substantive due process simply has to do with the fact that we are required, or the rule that we are required to apply rules and regulations and standards and zoning regulations and general plan policies that are in effect at the time that we're considering the project. What that means is that if we have a proposed project that does not propose any legislative changes, such as a general plan amendment or a specific plan or a specific plan amendment or a zone change, that it's imperative for due process purposes that we apply, again, our current general plan policies, our current zoning policies, our current development standards, our current design guidelines that are in effect at the time that, or basically when the application was received. We just have to keep in mind that when these applicants apply for these projects, they do a lot of due diligence, they spend money for applications, and they're expected to cover the cost, city's costs too. So there's a considerable investment that's made into these project proposals. So in the interest of fairness, what we are challenged to do, or what our task is to make sure that we don't change the rules on them in midstream. And that also means that it's not appropriate for us to, I guess, reanalyze our current general plan policies in regards to how they apply to a particular project. So if we don't like a particular general plan policy, it's not appropriate for us to do anything about that at this point in connection with a particular project that's not asking for any change in our general plan policies. And that all has to do with due process. In addition, it's also important that not only do we apply our current policies in effect, but we do not attempt to apply any policies or any rulings or rulings from any court cases that are not applicable to this particular project. In addition, when we're dealing with pending litigation, meaning that there's ongoing litigation, we are not supposed to be applying anything that comes out of that pending litigation to the particular project. And finally, the other thing I'd like to point out is that sometimes we receive numerous emails, correspondence from certain individuals in the community that are very passionate about what they believe in and what they believe is right for the city of Moreno Valley. But it's critical, again, that you exercise your own independent judgment on all these particular projects, and again, that you stick to applying to only those rules and regulations that are in place at the time that this project is being considered. So I just wanted to toss that out there, again, just as a reminder to all of you.
Thank you. All right, are there any commissioner questions for staff?
Just briefly, this may be more for the police or anything else. Knowing that property to the north is going to be basically built up at this time, I believe it may become a problem with, unfortunately, our homeless citizens, because that would be a very nice place to try and hide. Now, who would cover taking care of that?
That will still fall on to the responsibility of the property owner of that site. Ultimately, we will utilize the same responsiveness that we utilize for other areas within the city, between both our city's police as well as our city's code enforcement division.
Thank you.
I don't know if this is a question for staff or the applicant. Do you know, do they have any commitments for any of these restaurants? And are they allowed to disclose? Because I know, are they just open spaces, spec spaces?
I will defer to the applicant to share any leases they may have in place or prospective leases they may have in place.
Second question, is there any community benefits from this project, from the build of this project? I know I'm imagining there's some, we didn't get into that, but there's some infrastructure that's got to be built out. I'm assuming that's going to be taken care of by them, but aside from that?
So this is a by right project.
Okay.
So that they're not asking for any legislative actions from this commission, which is, if there is a legislative action, that's traditionally when city staff may, suggest to the applicant to maybe consider some things like a community benefit. There is no obligation ever to do that. But what I would note is that this project is doing a very significant infrastructure improvement associated with it, which is the connection of the existing storm facility that comes out from underneath State Route, I should say, 60, and connects along the south side of the project at Fur. There will be a fairly substantial cost associated with that, as well as some mitigation land that they will need to purchase based off of the technical studies that came out of this project. And so there will be some fairly significant improvements done on that site to existing infrastructure that just has not been done to date.
I imagine there's going to be significant grading involved as well, right?
Yes, there will.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner questions for staff? Just the rendition, the plan there, is that a final plan? Where the orientations of the buildings are, or is that something that's still subject to be moved around?
That is the final site plan.
Okay.
There are always going to be minor movements and changes associated with the development when we get to final engineering. There may be, and there may be, requests from various tenants where they're going to come in and need a footprint that's a little bit different, with slight modifications in those regards, because it doesn't fit, their prototype. Those types of things traditionally will be handled either through plan check or through a substantial conformance application. If it goes beyond the threshold of our substantial conformance application process, then it would ultimately come back before the Planning Commission.
And looking at the actual layout of the site, it looks like there's a little small cutaway there at the north end. It's not an even square there. What is in that little cutaway there?
That is vacant, and it will remain vacant. That is ultimately held by the property owner there to the north. That's part of their property. That's the way it was subdivided. So that's the design that we have before us today in terms of the land. I know that the applicant did make contact with the adjacent property owner. I don't know what attempts, if any, were made to purchase the property, but ultimately that is not part of the application, and that is an existing situation.
Wow.
So the project has been designed, though, ultimately to continue to provide access. The condition that was stated this evening further emphasizes that retention of access, both to the benefit of this property owner as well as the benefit to the piece of vacant property there to the north of the site.
And the property list that's shown to the north of that, is that in the same zoning? as the.
It is community commercial, yes.
So that particular property could be completely surrounded at one point in time.
At least, I'm sorry, sir, I don't understand.
Okay, that little cutout away, that looks like a property there, right at the north, almost in the dead center there, right?
He's talking about that little.
Media, would it be possible to bring the PowerPoint back?
See, I'm looking right here.
They own that land also.
Right, they own this land. Okay. It's the one with the red, where it shows where the,
You're talking about
right,
the
right, because the
sem-
orientation
semi-tri-
on
the
that
s-
one is,
the semi-triangular piece there.
right.
Yeah,
Okay, I get it.
that piece is part of a larger, is part of the larger parcel there to the north. Danielle, would you be able to go back to the location map? So if you look at the location map, that larger parcel includes that small, what I will refer to almost as a triangular piece, just given the kind of the angles that are feeding off of it. Why it was subdivided that way, how that occurred, that was done a long time ago. So somebody had rights to something and wanted it that way.
My. Okay. Right. Yeah, and I was thinking that the property above that to the north is also zoned for the same thing.
Yes, it is.
And then another project could come in.
And another project will someday come in on that property
Okay.
because it is vacant, developable land. So there will be a project there in the future.
Interesting.
What it is, we don't know. We don't have any applications or entitlements submitted to us.
Got it. Okay. Any other commissioner questions for staff? It makes sense now because she said that the orientation of what we saw. Okay, got it.
I have a question.
Sure.
Sean, is there a specific fence and wall plan at this stage? Is it required at this stage, or is it more towards the
It is
prior
it is
building
not-
permit?
It is not required at this stage of development. Fence and wall plans are actually reviewed as part of the plan check the plan check. I would note, though, that there is an existing 6-foot-tall block wall along the western property line of this development already in place, and this property is set slightly lower than the adjacent properties are.
Any other commissioner questions for staff? No, you good? All right. Would the applicant like to speak?
Good evening. My name is Ash. I'm the applicant, and I'm available for any questions.
Well, okay. Are there any commissioner questions for the applicant? Okay.
I have questions, a few questions for you. First of all, thank you for your project and your investment in the community. I do have a couple questions. You know, this is our gateway, our entrance to Nason Boulevard, right? So we you know, as a city and the commissioners, we want to make sure it's highest and best use. And I just want to get your thoughts on, you know, there's commercial opportunities, there's retail, there's an anchor, there's food services that is needed on the east side of town. So that's all desired out here. What was your kind of thought process there on the corner of Fur and Nason for the ARCOY and PM versus alternative commercial opportunities that could maybe provide a different commercial opportunity? What was the kind of the purpose of that selection of that?
Well, that's a great question. I think part of the thought process, whenever we consider doing a fueling station, is we do actually a study to see if there's a need for fueling stations to be placed there. And usually these reports come back with a certain gallonage that is expected for that corner, if you will, and that area, along with C-store sales. And you can do the study under different types of brands. So it'll tell you information for Arco AM PM, 76, Rocket, Circle K, whatever brand of fuel and convenience store essentially. And what we found was there was actually an Arco AM PM that was on Merino Beach Drive that just got converted about a year ago. And based on the study that we did, we found that there was actually a need for, or a want, I don't know how you want to word it, for Arco AM PM actually in the community. There's a certain type of clientele and customers that prefer Arco AM PM fuel and convenience store offerings. And so we found that there is actually a need, and there's a lot of missing gallonage. So what that means is that people in that area, in that near vicinity, are actually traveling to other areas to get gas, and all other areas to specifically get Arco AM PM gas, or Arco gas, I should say. Excuse me. And so that's something that we found, and that's part of the reason we behind the thought process to place fueling there.
And also, as a follow-up to that, is the proposal to sell alcohol at the Arco AMPM?
Yes, there's also beer and wine.
That's it for now. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
No, the reason why I asked the question if this was the final plan, because it looks like let me see if this is right here. Because the orientation, I have to kind of rotate that around there. So the fueling station, will that be on the corner of Fur and Nason?
Yes, sir.
Okay, my question would be, it looks like on the north end of that looks like parking.
That is correct.
So, fueling station closer to the houses versus parking? That's what I was kind of thinking there, where it seems as though the fueling station, excuse me, would be better served closer to the freeway, less closer to the houses.
It's a great thought. I think our thought process was, fueling station close to the driveway, access point into the shopping center. But what we're really restricted by, or what the fueling companies are restricted by, is tanker path of travel. So our architect actually does a significant job of placing their tanker and going through different orientations and see if the tanker path of travel actually makes sense. In this case, it would be for Marathon Fuel. So, and they actually approved of the tanker path of travel in its current location for the fueling station. So that's kind of the biggest indicator there. It's not so much its orientation to the homes as much as it is to the driveways and the tanker path of travel.
And Chair Dejanek, just to clarify, what homes are you referencing, sir? Because this is located at, the fueling station would be located at what would be the southeast corner of the site. So it would be away from the homes that are located on the north side of Fur.
On a hill, those houses right there too.
Yeah.
Might be. So the homes,
I'm trying to think of my orientation.
so again, this is this will be, again, right at the signalized intersection is where the fuel station is being proposed. Right at the existing signalized intersection of Fur and Nason.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm assuming the street, I know in that corner right there, it seems like it gets really narrow. I'm assuming it's gonna get widened out, right? In that corner. Well, it does look like it's,
There will be requirements for street improvements on the north side of Fur within that location that don't exist today.
Okay.
So, yeah, the street improvements are completed. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to confirm that they are completed along Nason, but they will need to be completed along the north side of Fur.
and the next question is, do you have any commitments from any of the I do see there is a need for some food, for some fast food, and definitely a need for a sit-down restaurant in this part of town. Do you have any commitments from any of the fast food or restaurants? Or any of the stores at all?
Yes, actually, when I first started this project about 5 years ago, east side of Moreno Valley was not considered its own trade area. And we were kind of struggling to figure out what we were going to do. But over time, as the city has grown considerably, more houses have come. And, I've been able to market this site to different, tenants. I've been able to drum up, drum up enough interest. And now there's a significant trade area. So I'm happy to report that actually both In-N-Out and Chick-fil-A are looking at this site, and they're most likely going to be our tenants here.
I have a question on that. That's great. That's great. As far as the large retail anchor, right? Have you had any conversations? Because I was just thinking, Trader Joe's, Aldi's, is that something that amenable to this site?
Great question. Trader Joe's, unfortunately, is not so amenable to the site, but Aldi and Grocery Outlet have both shown interest.
I have a couple of questions for you. One, you mentioned In-N-Out, and I know the In-N-Out that we have in town, there is not adequate drive-through for that. So if that would be a case where that would come in, what kind of redesigning would you have to do to keep the cars off the street, basically, is what it would happen.
Yeah, it's a great question. So if you notice the building along Nason, that what we have in mind potentially is to move that building further to the north to provide more stacking in the drive-through.
And then on Nason, I do know the city says that the road is built out to what the city has planned to, but I have a big concern on that. We do have high school pedestrians walking down Nason. I have a concern with people coming off the freeway, living on a street that has a slight downgrade and how fast they do come and how quickly they gain speed. I have a concern for the safety of people walking on that street, that people who will be turning right into you from Nason will not, the speed coming up to it will not have a proper decel time to slow down. Also that they will decel in actually a travel lane to make their right turn. So if they do have to wait for pedestrians, they are going to block the flow of traffic. Now, I may be wrong on this, and traffic can correct me on it. Would you consider putting like a decel and accel lane, widen the road a little bit to put a lane there? That way, if somebody is turning right, there is pedestrians, they can stop and not cause a flow interruption on Nason. And then I do have more questions after that if you want to answer.
So, Commissioner Zeitz, we're going to actually have our land development staff address that question.
Okay.
Rather than the applicant, because ultimately it is our street.
No, I understand that. Then can I ask my next question, because it may involve with them too, and he can answer them both at the same time?
Of course.
Okay. Also, there is a large buildup of traffic turning left on Nason coming down the hill. And when they do turn, it is a quite long pocket, but not quite long enough. Most of that traffic does turn left and then turn into the Target, which is not your thing, but I'm just thinking of traffic overall. My concern, or possibly, is now that we're going to have more traffic, because you're going to have what's mentioned to me, and I don't know how true it was, 4,000 to 6,000 trips into that particular thing. That means that meaning more cars that are coming. Is somehow to, maybe the city can do this and it could be put onto theirs because they can take care of this for us, is to possibly put a left turn where the exit is from the Target. And I mean, not a full signal, but if anybody's familiar with Pigeon Pass, where you enter the freeway going southbound, that it is a left turn only, and it coincides with the signals that's just a little bit further. That way it will relieve traffic at that intersection of people turning left and trying to get in, where you'll give them a secondary shot to go into. I'm just wondering if we could possibly extend that pocket, put a signal in there to allow people to turn left. Yeah, that's probably a staff question, so that's,
Good evening. This is Clement Jimenez with the Land Development Division. I'll take the first question, and then I'll defer to our Transportation Division for the second question regarding the left turn pocket. Regarding the deceleration lane as proposed, the biggest problem is that there is a 2-to-1 downslope, significant grade differential between the existing nascent street surface and the development at the bottom of the hill. So it would take a lot of grading and a very tall retaining wall to accommodate the deceleration lane. And I can also defer to the applicant's engineer, who is here today, for any further comment. But that is the first initial thought with respect to proposing a deceleration lane.
well, my thought in that is safety first. If it costs extra to make it safe for the public and the kids walking down that street, it shouldn't matter the cost. That's something that I think should be considered. And then I'll wait for an answer on my second one.
Wei Sun, City Traffic Engineer. Regarding your proposed extension of the southbound left turn at Nathan and Fur, we did a calculation. The existing storage is sufficient to handle additional traffic.
I'm sorry, I did not understand.
Okay, the current storage length.
Right, the current left turn lane, yes.
Yeah, is sufficient to process additional traffic as a result of this development. Because this development on the west side, the left turn is for the visitors go east side, such as Target.
I fully understand that, but I can tell you by driving my daughter to school, at the school that goes in there, that it does not sufficiently handle it, because there are backups when you do turn left, because people are going into the Target parking lot, and that left turn pocket backs up to the signal of Nason. So I'm just thinking if we could come up with an alternate to get people into that shopping center without going too far would be significant, and also make that intersection a lot safer for the kids going to and from school.
I agree. We probably need to make additional traffic signal adjustment to extended left turn phase, to add additional time for the left turns.
So the other thing that I would identify based off of, what is being shared by our public works staff is that ultimately the condition of approval needs to have a reasonable nexus, a reasonable connection to this project. It's not just a matter of saying, we would like this and this is something that's occurring. It's an existing situation. And as our traffic engineer did just identify, it is something that may need to be relooked at in terms of just signal timing in the existing situation. So there is no nexus, therefore there is no way for us to just mandate a condition on an applicant.
And then I do have, scroll down here, I do apologize for the moment here. With the project on the west side, aligning the houses, I do understand that in the back of the project that there'll be a retaining wall. I haven't seen, how high was that retaining wall gonna be? Do we have a figure on that yet?
Commissioner, would you mind asking the question one more time? I apologize.
Oh, it's how high the retaining wall will be on the northeast or northwest corner of the property,
Okay.
behind the anchor store and the other one that's beside it.
Apologize, I was.
No,
At its
I'll repeat
peak,
anything
at its
you want.
peak height, at its peak height, it's 14 feet.
14 feet, and then that does taper down towards
As you go towards Fur, yes.
Okay.
Pretty significant, pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, yeah, it angles. Okay, because I do have a concern with separation from the houses. Under 14 feet is a pretty good wall. Nobody really will climb that. But I do have concern as it gets closer to Fir, that I don't feel, being 6.5 foot tall, a 6-foot fence would give proper privacy, sound definition, or whatever to the houses closer to Fir. I'm just wondering if you could possibly either work with the residents there to maybe raise their wall or put some kind of buffer between that. So then you could, because right now you can look over, I can look over the fence. Not everybody can, I understand that, but I can look right over the fence from that particular property to the other one. Living on that spot, I would feel a whole lot of invasion of privacy, especially since it is going to be stored there. And I also have a concern with your retention pond, that being behind the stores and all. I'm gonna bring up the homeless thing again. So I'm just wondering if what kind of security we might have on that that would keep that from happening. And is there going to be a wall behind that retention pond to the houses?
Right. So to kind of address the questions, the
Sorry,
first
I'm
question.
rattling them off. I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine, sir. So the first question, kind of, three-part answer in my opinion. Visually, we plan on making the shopping center appealing visually. Everyone has their own perspective. Some people like to see tumbleweeds. Some people like to see colorful buildings. So we could just try to make it as visually appealing and conforming to what the city standards are. So if someone can happen to look over the wall, hopefully they see something quote unquote nice. As far as noise and the third party you mentioned, lighting. Well, we spent significant time and energy and effort to do studies, noise study and light study as part of our CEQA document. And the type of lighting we use and the type of decibels of sound that are used for any kind of outdoor speakers, we make sure that they're such that they actually don't transmit beyond a certain point of the property line. Probably the same, actually far less, I should say, than even the noise you probably hear from the traffic from the 60 freeway, actually. So, I would probably defer to our ISMND study and the components of that for lighting and noise that would probably be best to explain that, the type of lighting we use and the way it's laid out, it just really doesn't go beyond the property line. The second component with regard to the, you had mentioned, what was the last question? I apologize.
Oh, the retention pond.
Right.
The retention.
Yeah. So there will be a retaining wall that also goes west east as well behind the property. And all we can do is if there starts to become issues, which is unfortunately not uncommon, right? And I have properties that we manage in Riverside, city Riverside, just next door, and we have issues all the time with our homeless population and with graffiti and other types of things and vandalism. And so what we do to combat that, in addition to walls and fences and such, are security. And we'll work with the city and with the police department and on that and make sure that we have sufficient security as much as we can to combat that, and work with homeless outreach or any other types of, options that there are out there. That's the best we can do.
Well, the retention pond that I was talking about was it actually runs north and south on your property on the west side.
Right, the northwest corner.
It's actually mid.
Mid, yeah.
My thing was not of people looking out of their backyards to see in your project. I'm thinking of strangers looking in somebody's backyard. That's why I'm more concerned with maybe some kind of shielding or raising the fence. I mean, a foot would make a big difference for people, because who wants their kids out there in the backyard playing when somebody who they don't know, and guaranteed not everybody that's going to go to this project is from this city.
Right.
Easily can peek over their backyard and see into it. So I'm
Yeah.
just thinking,
Yeah,
if
it's
something
interesting.
could be done with that, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I mean it's an interesting point. It's a valid point. What's interesting to me about it is I've had arguments made by neighbors that say, "Don't go high on my wall because you're cutting down on the wind and the breeze that I get." So I've heard a lot of different variations. So I think what we could do is maintain the city standard height wall, provide security on our end. What I've seen a lot of our neighbors do is they provide, plants and different types of trees to try to shield their yard. And we can definitely reach out to the city, to the neighbors in that area, and see if there's anything else that they suggest, to talk to them directly. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, that would be nice if you could talk with
Absolutely.
the people that live there and maybe help them out a little bit if they want to put some shrubs or trees, or just put maybe a little fence on top of it. I know it's their
Definitely.
fence,
Right.
but that would be fantastic if you could put that in there, that you would reach out and supply them with, I don't know, put a limit on it, but then at least it's there, and if they want it, they can take advantage of it, and if they don't, then you gave them their chance.
Sure.
Commissioners, I would like to also just remind the commission of a few, couple of years ago now, I can't believe it's already been that long, we applied a requirement within our development standards for on-site security associated with commercial developments. And this site does ultimately meet that threshold where a commercial security plan would be required. It does not outright mandate security personnel, but that is up to the discretion ultimately of the police department in working with the applicant to establish and work on that and finalize that plan. Also, landscaping on this project. There is an established landscape planter along that western property line, and we can definitely work with the applicant to look at various shrubs and other plants that would be less conducive for somebody to be trouncing through.
Thank you.
I have a question. I'm a little perplexed here. Where is that 14-foot wall? Is it going to be by the residents' houses?
Yes, it'll be the northwest corner of the property.
Here.
Yeah, because this property is
Oh, 14 feet is, that's a lot.
A lot.
That's a lot, because I have a house that is kind of on a slope, and I've got a really tall one on my side.
Right.
Because my neighbor, naturally, since our property goes like this, his is very short. I mean, he could actually stand and talk to me where I'm way down, but 14 feet, that's a lot. And I know that as it graduates down, you can't keep it the same because you've got cars and they have to have a line of sight if they don't have that. So if these houses here on the very end, I mean, you can't have a tall
Right.
wall, and like you said, I mean, they know the shopping center's going in there. Most of them don't have, because they have to have it graduated. I was just kind of confused, if, how big is this wall gonna be?
And again, this property is set below the adjacent residence.
Right,
So the retaining wall will ultimately be visible from the development, not from the residence.
no, it sets down. This property here sets down. Oh. Okay, I was confused with all this walls and everything, because I do know that, I see that property all the time when I go to that shopping center across the street. So, 14 feet, I think, we're not building the wall of China. I mean, this is crazy, but 14 feet, I think that would be sufficient, and it does set lower than these houses here. Okay, I was just getting confused with this wall.
Sure.
I have one more question for the applicant. I just want, because what you mentioned, a clarifying question, the in and out. Now, are you, and you mentioned the Nason. Are you saying where the McDonald's is, or are you saying somewhere else?
Does it show McDonald's?
Yeah,
on
it
there?
shows
Okay,
McDonald's,
Yeah, that's an old plan probably that
Okay.
showed that.
Because definitely, if it's in and out, you like you said, you have to move it.
Yeah.
Definitely move it. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. No, it'll be moved to north if that's the ultimate, and to allow for more stacking. Yeah, we're not going to do anything that causes any kind of spillover or anything traffic wise.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Thank you for your investment in our community and so much investment. My question is this: I was sitting here thinking about this for a minute. Have you considered having a a police substation there in that complex, and I'm just thinking a police substation in your commercial center.
I mean, we've actually done something like that. In the city of Paris, we had a Arco AMPM truck stop, and they did have a sheriff substation within the convenience store, for what it's worth. So I am familiar with what you're saying. I don't think that's been brought up here. I love law enforcement, so anything to support that, I'm all for.
So okay.
Great thought.
So how?
So this is not anything that we could ultimately condition on this project. I'll
Okay,
start
okay,
there.
all right,
We can't
all right,
condition
yeah,
that on this
all right,
project.
well-
The city is always, where appropriate, police substations are added to various sites. If there is ever a commercial center that is interested in offering a suite to the city for that purpose, it is ultimately taken under consideration, and it's based off of a number of different requirements, whether or not that is something that we would ultimately pursue or not.
Yeah.
So if that's at the time that this project is built or complete, or near completion, if that's something that ultimately the property owner is interested in doing, they would ultimately reach out to the city and submit such an inquiry, and we would take it under consideration.
Yeah, and the only reason I said that is because over the years, where I work at Lowe's and Stater Brothers, and I talked to Councilman Delgado about it, and one of the things I always considered with all this organized retail theft, that right there in itself will send a message to individuals that had bad thoughts or trying to rob some of your businesses and over at Target. I mean, it would be a good public safety measure. But I understand what you're saying, Sean, and I appreciate it. I didn't know how to say it, but I was asking would he even consider it, and that's something I'm strongly about, the public safety aspect of this project too. So that's something I have opportunity to make a difference. It's to get something in there where instead of having, because our police station's right over here, but way on the east end, you don't have very much of. They have to drive way across town, or if they're on patrol, they could get there. But if it was a way where they can respond quickly to things, then I think I made a difference in some way.
Though it cannot be conditioned.
Oh, no,
I
I don't
assure
wanna
you.
condition
I assure you that I'm actually very interested in this. I'm going to make note of it
Yes.
because for us, it's beneficial.
Well,
for my shopping center, it's beneficial to have police, presence.
Yes, sir.
We're all for that.
Oh yeah, I'm not want to condition nothing. I'm just want to make sure I say it the right way. That's
All right. Any other commissioner question?
One last.
Just a clarification. On the retaining wall, the 14 feet is towards the north side, and as it reaches fur, the retaining wall basically is gone.
Yes, correct.
So when you reach fur, the project is on the same level as the houses, within a foot or two.
Yes.
So that's why I was bringing like that end a little higher fences. Not
Understood.
down where it's 14 feet. Obviously, nobody's
Right.
going to see over that. But I just wanted to clarify that retaining wall does.
It becomes street level essentially.
It
You're
becomes
right.
street level
Yeah,
at
on
that
Fur,
point.
we're street level with the neighbor's house next door. You're right.
And so being that far away from the driveway, and basically I'm not asking to add anything, but just to raise the existing fences that are 6 feet, maybe up to 7 or 8 feet, if the property owner consents. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, sir.
Does it transition midway or 3/4 of the way where it starts?
About in the middle of where the bioretention area is on the map is where the retaining wall begins. And it starts at around 5 feet, you said?
Well, it zeroes out here.
So it zeroes out and it starts at what is this height right here?
Yeah, it's at 0 feet and then
0
it goes
okay.
up to 14.
Yeah, so in the center of the bioretention, it literally starts at 0 feet or half a foot, and it goes up from there to 14 feet. So from the middle of the bioretention to fur, there's no retention wall.
It's about the fourth residence on the. There you go. The fourth one.
The fourth home, yes.
West side of them.
I have one more, Chairman. The question I wanted to ask is about jobs, and I was like I read the condition of approval where it says Reno Valley business may adopt a first source approach to employees. So, what is your opinion? Are you going to work hard to ensure that local residents have the first opportunity, like the Hire Movell program that we have here, and to utilize that to hire as many residents, qualified residents as possible?
Yeah, so I think from my experience with In-N-Out specifically, they do a really good job of that, from my understanding and from literally working with them closely on another project in Riverside. We definitely don't have as much. We would not have as much control over In-N-Out and Chick-fil-A in the sense that those would probably be ground leases, but the rest of the tenants, the rest of the spaces there, I plan on being the landlord. So I could probably incorporate that into the leases, and I anticipate on doing that because that's kind of a condition essentially. So that's something that we're going to be asking of our tenants specifically. And like I said, In-N-Out, I know they're very open to these types of things just from experience. Chick-fil-A, I don't have as much experience with, but we would suggest that to them as well.
Well, I appreciate that because a lot of times some of our residents miss out on opportunities to work closer to home if they choose to. And for to have an employer such as yourself to invest in our community so our residents could stay closer to home if they choose to be involved in their kids' life. So I appreciate that. Thank you for that.
Definitely, and I know you didn't ask this, but we anticipate roughly 150 new jobs just from here. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah.
Commissioner Terrell, the other thing I would highlight to you is our city staff, our economic and housing department. They are very, very good at getting in touch with the tenants when they are coming in for submission of their tenant improvement plans, and showing them the benefits of ultimately hiring the hire a resident programs. And showing them the benefits of that. So that is actually one of our most successful programs we actually have in the city.
Well, I appreciate that because, over the years we've seen many opportunities go by, but I'm glad the city is working with our private sector to ensure that our residents benefit for the economic opportunities that's presented from development. So thank on both our city and you, sir. Appreciate you.
Likewise.
All right, any other commissioner questions for the applicant? All right, well, thank you, sir.
Appreciate your time.
All right. I think we can go straight through here. What do you think? Okay. All right, at this time, we will now open the public testimony. The clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Keep in mind that each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on the public hearing item. And so as you're speaking, please kind of just veer off to your right and keep an eye on your timer there. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, we do. We have 3 speakers. Our first is Dale Hall, followed by David Borja.
Good evening. My name is Dale Hall. I'm one of the 7 residents that borders this project to the west. And I have a few comments and a few questions. But before I start, I would certainly like to salute the planning staff for their time and energy, professionalism, and patience in dealing with the community, or specifically me, in terms of answering questions regarding this project. Homeowners to the west, as I'm one of them, we're concerned about certainly the drainage, the retaining wall, lighting, noise, and things of that nature, and particularly the landscaping. When the landscaping and items come up to be reviewed through the plan check process, I would certainly request that the commission consider having some public notification to homeowners, specifically the homeowners that are immediately impacted, because we are genuine stakeholders in this project. My second comment is with reference to the traffic. Well, I'll take a step back. I want to salute the developer to hear him say that he's interested in interacting with the homeowners. That's good to hear. My other comment is about the traffic, particularly on Fur. Fur Avenue, I've been in Moreno Valley for 12 years, 7 years at this particular home. And during that 7-year period, I don't know what the status of Fur Avenue is, secondary highway, what the status of the road is, but it accumulates a tremendous amount of traffic. And by widening the road, which you're going to be able to do, you can only take it to that first house on the west end of the project, and then it's going to go to 2 lanes. There's a tremendous amount of traffic along Fur Avenue, and that needs to be looked at and addressed. My third comment is once again about the landscaping, the drainage, the lighting, and security. I was over at Sprouts the other day. They've got a solar system with lighting and a camera that does surveillance on the whole area. And that certainly would be an option on something we should consider for this particular project. The issue of the wall behind my home, as I understand it, is going to be about 9 feet tall. But the grading difference is about 25 feet. So it's not going to impact me that much. I'm concerned with the impact it will have on my existing wall when you start to do the grading to put the retaining wall in. Thank you for your time. I much appreciate your interest in this project.
Thank you.
Next, we have David Borja, followed by Brent.
Good evening. I'm also a resident that backs to this project, and I have a couple concerns. Many of you already touched on it. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. The main one was, for me, the privacy. I'm one of the owners that are in the very last south of Fur. I'm the second home from Fur up, and we currently have a pool. Every time we get on the rocks to jump into the pool, we can see everything on the landscaping. As a matter of fact, we've sometimes play ball and the ball knocks to the other side of the wall, and so easily to just get to one side to the other. So that's the main concern. Our window faces that project, and we'd like to have natural sunlight. And with the project being there and people being around, not so sure that we want to have that window open most of the time, since we have a lot of personal items in the property, in our home. The second one is noise. I get, gas stations are needed, but do we need another car wash nearby? I don't think so. Those are very loud. The blowers are very loud. We can hear the blowers from that Chevron gas station on next to down Nason. So the noise is going to be one of them. That's one. Two, not just the noise from the project, but also driving cars to the project. We have loud cars with loud exhaust that I am guarantee you they're going to be around the block, around the project, shopping, and that's going to be a big concern for us, because we have a beautiful backyard, and with that project existing, that's going to impact the noise and the privacy being in the backyard. Traffic, I think we covered traffic pretty well. The homeless I think we touched about the homelessness being now in that area. Going into our neighborhood, sometimes coming in late at night, we already see trash from other people that go and eat at Jack in the Box and leave their trash there. So there will be more trash accumulated at the beginning of our coming into our neighborhood. And the last one is the property of our values. I spoke with a few appraisers, and when a property backs out a project like this, it's called an adverse condition, meaning that when you go to any builder right now to buy a brand new home, you're paying $15,000, $20,000 more on top of the regular other properties for sale, because you pay more for privacy. You pay more because you don't have a neighbor. I'm a real estate professional, so I've helped clients sometimes get into homes, and they've paid $15,000, $20,000 more to have more privacy. So now with this property, we may not have our potential of reaching the full equity on our property. And that's pretty much it. I'm out of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Brent McClintock, followed by George Haig.
Good evening, fellow Moreno Valleyans and Planning Commission. We're the McClintock family. I think my family actually has left already, but we've been residents of this beautiful city for 2 years, and we're excited about the growth in our city and understand the need for economic development. However, we're here tonight to express our deep sense of concern and frustration regarding the proposal to introduce the development of drive-through restaurants, gas stations, and a car wash on the empty land adjacent to our neighborhood on Nason and Fur. There are several reasons why this unprecedented project should not be permitted, many of which have been highlighted by our neighbors as well as the Planning Commission themselves. Our opposition to this project is due to the significant negative impact it will have on our neighborhood, not to mention the unprecedented nature of these types of establishments potentially or actually being placed directly in the Moreno Valley community. You guys saw that there's homes right there. First and foremost, the introduction of these types of establishments will greatly compromise the privacy and safety of our community. The increased foot traffic and potential for loitering that often accompanies these types of businesses will undoubtedly disrupt the tranquility and security that we currently enjoy. Our children, who will soon walk to and from school each day, we all mentioned that, will be particularly vulnerable to the potential hazards posed by an influx of customers who frequent drive-through restaurants, gas stations, and a car wash. Furthermore, the potential rise in traffic congestion resulting from the addition of these establishments is a serious concern. Our streets are already strained, and the addition of these establishments will only further the issue, leading to increased noise pollution and safety hazards for pedestrians and cyclists alike. The privacy of our neighborhood will diminish as more traffic will flow through our neighborhood via Fur. The proposer of the project did not consider that the addition of a gas station, drive-through restaurants, and other businesses takes away from the privacy of single-family homes that are adjacent to it. Additionally, the proposer fails to consider the potential for the unwanted increase in homelessness in our community. So we do know that history shows that the presence of drive-through establishments can attract individuals experiencing homelessness, leading to additional strain on local resources and an increase in social issues. Many of us have seen the homeless encampments that have been erected and subsequently removed near freeways that have fast food restaurants directly off of them. If anyone needs visual proof, there's plenty off the Frederick Pigeon Pass exit on a pretty frequent basis. When the Moreno Valley Town Center comes to life, it will be a horrible sighting as patrons are exiting the freeway to see homeless loitering in the parking lots of these drive-through restaurants. Crime would also increase as there's a direct correlation between the insertion of these types of establishments and crime. I have a little bit more to say. Do I have time? I know. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
Next, we have George Haig, followed by Gabriela Pina.
Before we begin, do you have my letter that was handed to you at the very beginning? It was in the packet that hopefully you have. I'm going to go through some of it, and it would be good if you would have it. please don't start my time until they have the packet in front of them. Please restart my 3 minutes.
Mr. Hague, your time has started. They do have the packet in front of them. Thank you.
The In-N-Out, the Chick-fil-A, they are massive traffic. I couldn't get here down Hemlock because of In-N-Out tonight. I was stuck. Needs to be redesigned. CUPs are allowed as long as you demand both outside, on-site and outside conditions to protect the public safety. CUPs need to be compatible with existing uses, such as family homes nearby. These are all things that you're going to agree to, that this project is compatible with those homes, that it is in the public health and safety when you vote for these conditional use permits. There needs to be a higher wall, especially as you approach Fur. I had a family member robbed at gunpoint in the Target Center by somebody who didn't live in Moreno Valley, but thanks to the Moreno Valley Police, they were apprehended in Los Angeles. This project is going to attract people from outside of our city. You need to protect the existing residents. You need to make sure that the developer, before he leaves here tonight, actually sets up meetings with the homeowners that are here to resolve some of these issues. You should require sound monitoring equipment. The fact that you have a homeowner here that can hear the Chevron car wash all the way across Nason and all the way across this project into his yard shows you how loud they are, and it's going to be 70 feet from the houses to the south. You need to do something. We don't need another car wash. The speaker systems, they give you an or in between each of the mitigations. You need to require all 3 mitigations, plus put a wall between them. Private security guard is needed, not just a camera. Both really ideally are needed. Require shorter light poles than the 30 feet that they're saying. 18 feet is enough at the maximum. There are things you can do to the road system because it is much more impacted now than when the study was done in 2021. You need to require a right turn lane at Fur Avenue for Nason. You need to require a right turn signal. You need to have a lane, a frontage in front of this project in order to pull people out of the flow of traffic on Fur that can accelerate into the project.
Thank
Valley
you.
View High School.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Next speaker is Gabrielle Pena.
Hi, my name is Gabrielle Pena. I am a homeowner in the neighborhood that all of these other individuals have been talking about. I think we can all agree that there is a concern for traffic and safety in our area. I will tell you, I am born and raised in Moreno Valley. I have lived here my whole life since 1988. I have seen Moreno Valley come from a sunny mead with horses in our backyard to a thriving industry, and I'm very proud to call this city my home. I'm also a pediatrician, so I only think about kids because I believe they are the future. And as much as I really applaud the effort to add more finances to Moreno Valley and build up our infrastructure, I don't know if this is the best opportunity to do it in. In fact, there are a lot of opportunities to improve care for kids in the city that are not impacted by fast food joints, besides obesity and a nutritional issue that we seem to have rampant across the IE. And so while I have concerns about what we can do with this, my biggest concern is Fur is a very narrow street. I ride my bike with my kids. Yes, my kids play outside. The neighborhood actually plays outside. Our neighborhood plays basketball games and we do trick-or-treating, and my 13-year-old has best friends in the neighborhood. They feel safe riding their bikes up and down the street in their cul-de-sac neighborhood circle. We go door to door and we know our neighbors. We play outside. When we add a gas station and a fast food joint and a restaurant and an Aldi's and an In-N-Out and the narrow one-lane street of Fur, I don't think my kids can go outside and ride their bike. I don't trust that they'll be safe, both with pedestrian traffic and cars traffic. I don't think that they'll be safe with homelessness and vandalism. And we're trying to combat this issue of obesity and lack of kids going outside. Why are we building more indoor structures? Why are we not making it safer for them to play outside, for facilities, for areas for them? Why are we only enabling indoor activities like video games? Because it's, again, not safe for them to play outside. So I'm not going to reiterate the other issues that were brought up. And again, I'm very proud to be a part of this city and plan to be a part of this city for forever. But I'd love for my kids to grow up in an environment where they see parks and playgrounds, where they see pools in the summer and YMCAs, instead of another Jack in the Box or an In-N-Out, or another restaurant where they sit and they eat. I would love for them to play. Thank you.
Thank you.
There
Are
are no
there-
more public speakers. Chair.
All right. Thank you. At this time, if there are no more speakers, then we will close the public testimony and move into deliberations.
Chair, we traditionally give the applicant an opportunity to rebut.
That's true. Would the applicant like to provide any additional information? I think I'm jumping the gun there.
Hello again. So, I just want to kind of point out to the community at large that when we take these projects into consideration, again, we do a lot of different studies when it comes to traffic, noise, lighting, air quality, greenhouse gas, you name it. There's a entire plethora of studies that are done, and they're done based on, the square footage, the uses, the fact that there's a gas station, that there's a car wash, all these things are taken into consideration. They're done by professionals. There's even archaeological studies that are taken into consideration. We check with the different tribes in the area. I mean, this is a very extensive, thought out, thorough, and costly process. And the reason we do that, and the reason me and my family who develop these types of projects, take the care and consideration and the time, 4 or 5 years that we've dedicated towards this project by itself, is because we do care about the community. And we want to make sure that if we do place, a restaurant or whatever is placed in this area, that there's actually thought that goes into it and we're not negatively impacting the community. And I think that our report very clearly shows that. And is that report public? Yeah, so that report is public on the public website that can be accessed by anybody, and it goes into excruciating detail about, the lumens of lighting, the decibels of noise, and the extent of where this noise and this lighting actually projects onto our property, and so I understand that there's a lot of thoughts that go into well, this is this way or that is that way, but these are objective findings done by professionals. And we take this very seriously, and I just want to kind of make sure that the community understands that and knows that they have access to this information. And again, any questions, I'm always available.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so at this time, with no any more public speakers, we'll close the public testimony and move into deliberations. Unless someone wants to move directly to a motion.
I do have something.
Yeah.
I did forget to ask this question, but I don't know if it's proper time or not. Being it is a fueling
No.
station, have you?
It's deliberation.
Okay. I would hope that you would include EV charging stations in this, all in verbiage, and not make it just a regular gas station. I would like you to, or we can put it in as a not commission, but a condition that he does meet with the residents on the south side that are beyond the retaining wall and set something up with them to appease any problems they may have with privacy. Again, I do like the way they set up the gas station where they did put the pumps and the lighting into more of the center of the project and put the back of the building towards the houses. That was a good thought. I would still like to see the right turn lane on the Nason. I understand that it may be a charge, but I do believe, or a cost, I do believe it would be beneficial. I mean, if one life is lost, was it worth it? Just for maybe a little asphalt and a little grading. But other than that, you know, if we could get those two put in, I would really like to see that, just for public safety and community safety. Thank you.
I'll give it a shot. You know, that area has been obviously, it's been, to me, it's been, I lived off of Nason. I live now off of Redlands, and this is something I see on a regular basis. There's been a home that's looked abandoned for, it's got to be 10 years, I think. And there's like a ravine in there that's definitely unsafe if somebody were to actually be, some kids were to actually go down there and start playing, right, with all those trees and stuff. So that's number one. I know that the city actually needs development. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the fast food. Like Gabrielle said, I'm not really a big fan of a lot of fast food as well. I do appreciate a restaurant because we desperately need more restaurants, but we do need more options as well. And yeah, fast food is not the best options, but after I've been in construction for close to 30 years, and I've seen the layout. I like where the gas station is, and I tell you that when 76 took over the AMPM, the price of diesel went up $1. It's $1 more than anywhere else in the city, and that's the closest gas station to my house. So when I put 20 gallons or 25 gallons in my truck, that's an extra $25 unless I drive across town. So anything that's going to help compete, I'm sorry, it's a value to the residents, whether they see it now or not. Now, as far as for the residents backing up to that, unfortunately, this area has been vacant for a long time, and it's been zoned this way for a long time as well. Some of those homes are fairly new. I'm willing to bet those homes are not more than 10 years old. I could be mistaken, but I know this area has been zoned that way for a long time. So, and for David, you're in the real estate industry. You know that zoning, a lot of times people, when they buy homes, they don't realize what's zoning next to them. And it's unfortunate because we've had to sit here and see residents very upset that they do not want a specific development in their backyard. But like the city attorney mentioned earlier, the reason why he stated all that is because there's certain projects that we cannot vote no on without legally putting ourselves in jeopardy. So this is one of those projects that dots the I's and crosses the T's. And there's a reason. So when we've had neighbors yell at us and scream at us and wait for us outside as well, what they don't realize that there's certain laws that we have to abide by up here as well. So with that, I don't see it being, this project looks like it's laid out right. It's gonna look good, I'm sure, even off the freeway. Personally, I think the amount of traffic that comes up and down Nason is gonna utilize this shopping center primarily. I don't see a lot of outside people coming across town for this shopping center. I think it's already there. The people coming off Nason, it's already there. So I don't foresee a lot more traffic than that's already there, personally. From living here, you know, the last, 35 years I've been living in Moreno Valley. So, and I lived off of Nason back when the bridge used to be called Gravity Hill. If anybody knows,
I remember.
If you've been here long enough, you know what Gravity Hill is, and that was Nason Bridge. So, I think I'm sure the sidewalks are going to be well, and for safety, yeah, I see how that can be a little tight. I can foresee that being a little bit issue. There is a light at the end. There's going to be a crosswalk across there. When I've seen people walk school kids, they walk on the other side. I don't really see people walk on that side, school children, ever. Because I've gone up and down the street and they always walk on the opposite. And so I think that might help. As a matter of fact, you know, coming out of Target and Jack in the Box is where, you know, that's the main issue right there before they cross the bridge. Other than that, I do wish we had more parks as well. Gabriel mentioned I wish, but developments like this do also, you know, other big developments also put in for big parks. We need more parks in the area. I wish we could have an open lot by my house that I wish was a park instead of tumbleweeds blowing down the street. So with that, I'm going to vote for this project.
I'll say some comments. I want to read something from our MoVal 2040 general plan. It's on 2-16. Nason Street is envisioned as a grand boulevard and central spine of the downtown center, with the highest intensity of development focused along it. A walkable new, and in quotations, Main Street is envisioned at the core, lined with shops, restaurants, workplaces, and cultural venues. And I kind of want to echo my colleague, Omar. It's a commercial retail center. It has services and uses that the city needs, that the residents on the east end of the city need, definitely. Do I hear, you know, community members and even some personal preferences that, you know, for example, the gas station, if it had like an alternate with the future of electric fueling station, electric charging stations, that'd be great. There is one charging station or two on site. And also the traffic. The traffic is existing. It's all the people on the east side using the various Nason and First. So I agree. It's already there. But in general, the project fulfills what the kind of commercial community center needs. So I think the project will add value but I do want to say this: the residents are here. They've spoken, and I think it would be a great opportunity for the developer to meet with them, especially the ones along the western edge of the property. I believe there's 7 to 9 properties. So I think that'd be a good neighbor policy, right? To meet with them and hear their concerns, because they're the ones that are most directly impacted by the more noisier uses of the project. Thank you.
Well, I like the fact that there's 3 driveways, because it's, you know, you're going to have enough access and exit ways to get out of there. And the East End's going to see a lot of growth, a lot, because Moreno Valley there's not much left. And sooner or later it was going to get there, and this is it. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of it, just like my colleague said, because it's the corridor. And unfortunately, some people, when they do purchase homes, they don't realize that a vacant lot, or even a lot that is, you know, it's zoned for a certain type of building, and that's going to go in, and they don't really, you know what's going in there. And then when it does, they're shocked. But we just had one that we had a lot of apartments going in by the Home Depot, and people that had purchased homes didn't even realize, and that had been there, I guess, proposed for like 40 years. The developer just waited that long, but it was zoned for it, and it was going there, and they didn't even know. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. In Orange County, that happened to State College Boulevard. They had homes right on there, and they built a lot of shopping centers and things going to the Angel Stadium. I mean, I hope the builder does work with some of the people that maybe might be affected by it, but I think they're doing a lot right now. And it like Kobe said, it dots all the i's and all the t's, and we as commissioners, if they do their due diligence and follow all the rules that the city has mandated, there's no reason why we should not let them come in. So I will be voting for it.
I like this project. I like how it's set up, and it's close to the freeway, 60. So when you get in, you can get off the freeway, and it complements the Target Center. So, and also too, the investment, the public infrastructure improvements, like for FER, the project applicant shall pay 15% of the transportation system improvement fees to implement the following transportation system improvements. So that's a good thing. So the money that he pays is going to go into the improvements of Nation Street and Fur Avenue, and also on Nation Street improvements too. There's also going to be restriping, and Morrison Street and Fur Avenue improvements. They're going to be a lot of significant amount of improvements, which is going to do a lot for this project. But also too, I like the fact that everything that my colleagues have said is it's zone community commercial. So if these uses are permitted, especially the gas station and the fast food drive-thrus, because it has mitigations, and there's a significant amount of mitigations out there that's going to reduce the impact of this project. So, to me, and also too, it will generate revenue, jobs, which are important because we need more police officers on the street, more firefighters. We need more improved infrastructure. We can have the parks we need because we have more revenue. People work closer to home, and that means there'll be more involved in their kids' life, which we need more people off the freeway and closer to home. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, it's not a perfect world or a perfect project, but it's gonna, in the long run, it's gonna do a lot for this community. And I think it's as my colleague said earlier, the city is growing on this end. It's gonna grow and continue to grow. So we would have the competition, like the gas station. Competition is good. You have one street over here, you have one gas station at $5, you might have one over here for $3 or $4. Competition is a good thing. I'm always for the free enterprise system. But anyway, I'm going to support it because of the fact it meets all the criteria that is expressed.
Thank you. Baker?
The only thing I'd like to say is I think this project really complements the Southgate Shopping Center. It kind of opens that gate at the Fur and Nason. It's something we need. And I understand where the people that live next to it, but anytime you buy a house next to like we've always said, next to an empty lot, it's going to get filled up sooner or later. So unfortunately, that's the way it is, but I'm going to vote for it. I think it's a good project, and it'll be a good addition to the East End there. Thank you.
Yeah, that's always been my comment, that it's very, very important to check and see what the empty lot next to your home is zoned for. It would be nice to be able to own my property and tell someone else that buys another property what to do with it. And that's just not the case. This is my 55th year. I said that out loud, didn't I? This is my 55th year in Moreno Valley. And I remember when that area was all orange groves. And I do remember Gravity Hill and telling the scary stories as your car rolled back up the hill. And how the troll was going to come and get you if you got to the top. That's way back in the day. I'm old. But yes, an empty field is going to get filled, and that's the bottom line. What we do like to do as commissioners is work with the developers and say, hey, let's talk to the people that it impacts. Can we make adjustments to the wall? Can we move that in and out so it doesn't impact the traffic? Can we make adjustments to help alleviate more safety issues and stuff like that? Like I said, back in 55 years ago, we used to buy those single lots, and then somebody else would come in and buy the lot. I wish I could sit there and say, you can't put that there. But that's their lot. They paid for that money, and they paid for it. And guess what? They get to put what it's zoned for on that property. As long as they follow the laws and like I said, dot the i's and cross the t's. All right. So again, I would really encourage the developer, those properties right there. And I'll talk to each one and say, hey, let's talk about the wall. Let's talk about, how that's impacting you, how that's impacting your children with the ball going over and for. I mean, I'd hate to see the ball go over and some patron says, oh, I'll just jump it back over there for you. No, we don't want to see that. Or again, is it going to block the beautiful lighting that they had, going into their backyard or their bedroom or something like that? So I would talk to them. It's a few residents and talk to them about that. With that said, do we have a motion in a second? Oh, we have to go all the way back to that.
Want me to go ahead with it? Okay, got it. I move that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2024-0, and then also we're going to adopt Resolution 2024-2. Guess that's all we need. Those two resolutions, or need some more?
It would be resolutions 01 and 02, and then staff would also suggest the condition of approval that was recommended and presented to you this evening as part of the packet to be
Okay, got
added
it.
as well.
Okay, and
if-
also add the conditional approval as submitted tonight. Do you need to read that or not?
If you're in agreement with what I just
I'm-
said, then
I'm
we're
in
good.
agreement with that.
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, the motion does carry. Do we have a staff wrap-up?
The action of the Planning Commission is an appealable action. Anyone wishing to appeal the decision of the commission must do so by filing an appeal application to the Community Development Director, as well as pay the applicable filing fee within 10 calendar days of this action. Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is other commissioner business. At this time, we have no other items. So the next item on the agenda, excuse me for a second, folks. The next item on the agenda is staff comments. Do we have any staff comments?
I have a couple this evening, actually. So we'll start out Planning Commissioners Academy, March 6th through 8th in Long Beach. I need to know who will be attending. It is open to all 8 of you to attend, and we just need to know, hopefully within the next week. That way we can make sure that we get you actually in the hotel there, and you're not down the street and having to walk to it.
Can we just raise our hands now?
If you'd like
or
to
do we
raise your
need
hands right now and say you're in, then that's perfectly fine. And Rachel will start booking. So I got 1, 2.
How about our alternate?
I can't see.
Her hands up.
All right. So we have 6 commissioners, so it will be Commissioner Baker and it's easier to just say Commissioner Baker and Commissioner Cobian will not be in attendance. So, thank you for that quick straw poll. We will get you all signed up. Appreciate that. The other thing I did want to identify, or a couple of other things I wanted to hit on this evening, electric vehicle charging. It is mandated under the California Building Code. They are required to install a certain number of chargers based off of the size of their development and its scope. So whether you see it on the plans or not, know that that's something that we're going to get in the building plan check process, and they will have to install the number that ultimately is required by the state of California. The last thing I wanted to announce, and looks like she already left. Oh, she went to talk. Danielle was recently promoted. She was one of our associate planners. She is now our senior planner with the planning division. So I did just want to say congratulations to her, but she snuck out. So,
Watch the video.
Yeah. She'll watch the video. We'll have her watch the video tomorrow and she'll see it. All right. That is all I had. Steve, did you have any items for this evening, sir?
Just make a quick comment about you mentioned something about Nexus. So whenever we're considering, whenever the Planning Commission is considering which conditions to apply to a project, we have to look at the code. So we look to see if there's conditions that are set forth in the code that are required. We look at the specific circumstances of the project, and we have to, establish that the condition that you're recommending or imposing is intended to mitigate a specific impact caused by that project. And sometimes we get those conditions from our CEQA document, like in our negative declaration or mitigated negative declaration or environmental impact report. So anytime you have an idea about a condition, it's critical that you ask staff, is there a proper nexus here that we can establish for imposing that particular condition? Because if we get sued for imposing a condition that is not justified, that lacks a nexus, we can be responsible for paying damages to the applicant under this legal theory that is known as inverse condemnation, or a temporary or a taking of the property. So that's why staff always brings up this issue of nexus. That's what that's all about.
So I think we already made the announcement, but I'll just do it again. Julia was also promoted to principal planner just at the end of last year as well. I think we already did announce that one, though.
You got promoted too.
I'm acting.
Acting Assistant City Manager for Development Services.
Congratulations.
All right, with all the promotions going around, I would assume there's a monetary connection with that. Of course, I'd say that. Of course, we've been at the same pay grade since.
I make a motion.
Since I started back in 2018.
That does conclude staff's comments. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, so we're hanging out. Okay. 2 hours for one project. Right. The next item on the agenda is commissioner comments. Do we have any commissioner comments?
Oh, it's like a 2-second one. The only thing I would ask, if it could possibly done, is with today's technology, that the emails that we get after the agenda is posted and you guys receive these emails, if they could be forwarded to us, so we're not trying to read them right before the meeting.
We got them, didn't we? I got it.
So,
or did I miss it?
You must have missed it, because
okay,
we
so
got them.
we as city staff do not do that. The reasoning behind us not doing that is ultimately it requires, based off of our agenda software, the republication of the agenda. And in doing the republication of the agenda, ultimately we would have to do it as a Mark II or a Mark III, and it's very, very difficult, which is why we ultimately do not go through that process.
Okay.
We have them available we do have them available for your review. We present them, and we ultimately follow all of the appropriate rules and procedures in presenting them to you in the at the dais as we have done. I understand that there has been some situations where you may have been directly CC'd or copied on emails. Ultimately, there's nothing as staff that we are going to do to restrain or prohibit that. But ultimately, it is our responsibility that once we present it to the commission, We must also update our agendas. We must also update our site postings and a number of other things. And it is a very difficult process, especially when there is a potential that they're coming, that there may be 1, 2, 3, 6, 12 letters. We could be having to redo that agenda multiple times. And it is just the time involved is not, makes it infeasible.
Okay, I just was wondering why we weren't, so now you've explained
California
it, I
state
understand.
law.
Okay.
Any other commissioner comments? Are there any other commissioner comments at this time? Okay, all right. All right, this time, the planning commission meeting is adjourned at, what is that, 7:51 PM to our next regular meeting on January 25th. I'm going to say 2024 at 6 PM.
Next time we'll see it's gonna be a lot.
No,